Aloha, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of Omens, where we're going to check out what's going on around the world, and we're going to revisit the KFC commercial at the end of our presentation today. I really enjoyed breaking it down last time. I feel like it deserves further recognition, and some of you pointed out some stuff that I missed during the first go-round, so stay tuned for that. The first thing that we're going to go over, just checking my mic just to make sure it looks good. Yeah, it looks good to me. Hopefully I can get a thumbs up if everything sounds okay on your end. I'm still working out some of the kinks, so to speak, as far as like the presentation and the audio goes. But let's jump right into some of these headlines. Now, KFC's back in the news, and this time it's because they're creating a spin-off restaurant. I believe they're going to call it Saucy. And the whole thing is based around the concept of they're just selling their chicken strips or whatever, and then they're really trying to promote like this sauce, because they say that the sauce is everything and the people are going to want to come to eat the food because of the different sauces that they have to offer. Thank you so much for the thumbs up, everybody. Appreciate you. Now the sauce thing is interesting to me, right? Because I see the Omens not just in the news but also in the movies, which I feel are disclosure, that the movies have always provided us a form of disclosure to those who are paying attention. I recently watched this movie. This one's called Mickey 17, and it's about this guy in the middle, Mickey, right there. He signs up to basically go out into space and be an expendable. And an expendable, they have the 3D printing technology for human beings. They can 3D print a human's body in the movie. Which they could probably do that now in real life. But his purpose is he gets a free ticket into space as long as he goes out on these dangerous missions where he's guaranteed to die. And then once he dies, they just reprint his body and he comes back to life. He's basically reincarnated over and over again. The movie follows the 17th version of him that they create. In the movie, they make a big deal about sauce. There's these elite these space elite who are out there trying to like seed other planets with new human populations, and the ruler of the elite is basically a cult leader, basically very charismatic cult leader. His wife, they make a big deal about her creating sauces, but the sauces, they hint strongly, are made out of like human beings or even aliens. And the aliens in this movie are basically tardigrades. They're these gigantic tardigrades out there in space. These are not small. These are like a human would be like that tall. So I thought that this movie hit pretty close to home for me, that they have these huge space tardigrades. The cult leader's wife cuts off their tails and she makes this delicious sauce that she insists other people try, and they always ask her, well, what's the ingredients, what's inside of it? And she always says, I'll tell you after you try it. First try it and take a leap of faith. So I feel like there's a connection there with KFC, basically putting there seem to be disclosing to you, and people have known this for a while, right? The truth in movies have revealed to us Soylent Green, right? Anyways, we'll come back to KFC in a bit, but an interesting movie nonetheless. And this week's Truth in Movies, we're probably going to do Death of a Unicorn. I thought that was pretty revealing and pretty telling, and I'd like to talk more about unicorns, so keep an eye out this weekend for that Truth in Movies breakdown. Next up, this article says, Bush official claims that the U.S. built secret $21 trillion underground cities for the rich and the powerful to live if there was a near extinction event that were to happen. And you can actually see her interview that she did here on YouTube with over on Tucker Carlson News. And I'll just play this little bit. There's no sound because I don't want to get a copyright, but she says here that she estimates that there's over 170 deep underground bunkers. Not even like, for military purposes, but like Cheyenne Mountain or something, but specifically to ride out the apocalypse. So Tucker asks her, what would be the purpose of all of these underground bunkers, even ones under the ocean? She's talking about how she studied this for 2 years. And she says the purpose is if you thought that you were going to get a near extinction event. So here you have one of the government insiders admitting that there's ample evidence to suggest that the elite of the world are right now and have been preparing for a near extinction event, which is what I call the plasma apocalypse. It's cyclical, it happens over and over, and these people are related to prior survivors from long ago who passed down this information, from generation to generation. So they're preparing for that. Next up, we covered the Neuralink implant and talked about how, the first recipient of it, basically a handicapped person, I think it was like a quadriplegic or something. I can't remember, but it was a handicapped person, and they were able to play Mario Kart with this Neuralink implant chip. And that was the selling point, essentially. Now they're stepping it up and saying that they have a Neuralink patient that made a YouTube video with the Neuralink brain implant. So these cyborgs, which is basically, this is the beginning step of cyborgs. Like I said, the truth in the movies, right? Cyborgs are becoming very real in the world today. And you're a part of the generation that sees the birth of them, right? Whenever they cross robotics with organics. And that's starting to make its way into the social media platforms too. So will these social media presenters, be speaking from their own minds, or, will they be affected by some sort of robotic chip or whatever they're connected to? People believe that this chip only is useful for helping them to send out signals, but it can also act as a receiver. It can also receive signals, which means that they can be easily controlled, manipulated, even their perspectives. And perspective is going to be a huge one in some of these omens that we have coming up. This one is about a meteor strike. This is a little news story. I did turn the volume up on these videos, so let me know if the volume is close to my own volume, if that's okay. Let's go ahead and check this out. This is about a meteor that was flying through the sky.
For a meteor that fell over the weekend, people around the Salt Lake Valley reported a very large bright meteor in the sky Saturday night. Now take a close look here. This is dash cam video that captured the flash as it went behind the mountains in Ogden. You'll see it here shortly in the middle of your screen. There it is. Well, we asked our friends at the Clark Planetarium about the bright light.
Okay, now before we hear from the expert, I want to show you something that you should probably notice when it comes to these meteors. These meteors are supposed to be space rocks, basically melted metal that's flying through space at just speeds that are unfathomable, right? Thousands and thousands of miles an hour. Look at the speed as it comes in. They always slow down right there towards the end, okay? And modern academics will tell you, oh, well, it's hitting the Earth's atmosphere. And that's what's causing it to slow down. Well, slowing down from 40,000 miles an hour, you're not going to notice that much of a difference. If you look at a meteor shower and you see actual meteors shooting through the sky, they cover the entire sky in 1 second. Okay. So these slow motion fireballs that you're seeing, they're plasmoids, right? As a matter of fact, all of those meteorites are plasmoids for the most part. There's other things up there too, I believe. But electricity is the main culprit, ionized gas. And the Earth goes through these patterns, these electromagnetic currents that it goes through. So therefore, we can predict whenever we see a particular region of the sky lighting up with plasmoids that are, moving about. Sometimes those currents will go into flux and a plasmoid will come downwards. It's just grounding itself if it's electromagnetic in nature.
As it went behind the mountains in Ogden, you'll see it here shortly in the middle of your screen. There it is. Well, we asked our friends at the Clark Planetarium about the bright light.
Now let's hear from the expert.
What we call that is a fireball when it's that bright. This had a green glow to it, and it traveled across Utah, and a lot of people were able to see it in the Salt Lake Valley area.
Okay, so the expert basically just repeated everything we already know, that it's called a fireball, what color it was or whatever, right?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Now hold on, just check out right behind him. You see that? Well, you can't see it, but right there, they have these rocks, these meteorites or whatever, right? Now my theory I do believe that there's an area or a region up there between the surface and the dome, which is the space between. where things can float because buoyancy is increased so much in the middle. Pressure exists on the edges or the outside, the surface. So that's quote unquote what people perceive as gravity. But in the middle, I do believe that things have the potential to float, including rocks and stuff like that. Debris may get stuck up there from these atmospheric depressurization events whenever things float up into the sky and the sky opens up, as it has been talked about in many different religions. The sky opens up, the firmament rips open, the atmosphere depressurizes, things float, the winds kick up, and some things will get stuck up there in between. And I believe that that's what academics probably refers to as the asteroid belt, right? Just all the debris that's up there, moving about or whatnot.
Salt Lake Valley area.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And then they show you all these. Now, I went to Meteor crater in Arizona. I have a video here on my channel of my visit there, and they show you one of these metallic looking rocks. It's maybe, about that big. And they say that that's what caused this huge impact site, this meteor impact crater called Meteor crater. Meteor crater, from my examination up close and personal, has nothing to do with metal or a rock or anything smashing into the earth whatsoever. It doesn't resemble that. It doesn't look like it. I didn't see any proof of that. There's no kind of debris anywhere around the entire crater. And the crater itself isn't even circular in nature. It's more square looking, or like an octagon, basically. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. I believe those craters are created when the thunderbolts of the gods, massive electrical strikes from above, happen, and they just, they strike the earth and they blow out a huge crater in the earth, just like lightning will do the same thing. It's just the crater that lightning creates is much smaller. And oftentimes they can't even find these meteors whenever they go looking for them, some huge meteor, and they say, oh, it disintegrated. Now look at the rocks. These are metal. The metal disintegrated? Okay. All right, let's continue on. The secret of ancient Maya blue pigment was revealed from cracks and clues on a dozen bowls from Chichen Itza. There's that word again. That's the chicken, basically. Okay. That's the 88. Hey, who's that? Hamad Afakir just gave a free JayDreamerZ membership in the chat. Hey, congratulations and thanks, Hamad. That's cool. Congrats to Desert Jules. Welcome. All right, next up, we've got the killer fungus. So there's a lot of stuff on the horizon, a lot of things that are happening right now that most people are not keeping track of, and I don't believe that the government wants the public at large to know about it, that they're keeping the information private to themselves so that they and their family members can survive. So funguses are a huge one, okay? Funguses and bacteria and all this stuff. The world's becoming a dirty, polluted, toxic, nasty place, right? Killer fungus forecast to spread to the UK as climate changes. Viewers of the TV show The Last of Us are already familiar with the risks of a fungus that can wipe out people. Climate change is fueling the spread of the Aspergillus fungus that can kill people, animals, and crops. And here's an example. Here's the picture of the fungus right here. Now, this is huge because fungus can be airborne. As a matter of fact, that's usually how they propagate themselves and how they grow and spread. They become airborne. And every year, fungus infections kill 2.5 million deaths globally. Well, globally, according to the article. Across the world. 2.5 million people. That's just an estimate. Okay? So imagine what happens whenever we have more advanced types of funguses. Right? Now, I looked up the side effects of this particular fungus, this killer fungus that they're talking about, and that they connect with the show The Last of Us. If you're familiar with that show, check out the side effects of this fungus, right? So I looked it up and it says headaches, right? Persistent headaches or worsening headaches, fevers, seizures, so people twitching and dancing en masse, focal neurological defects, meaning it messes with your vision or your perception, the way you see things, altered mental status, which means confusion, disorientation, or even comas. nausea and vomiting, neck stiffness, and then personality or behavior changes from this fungus, airborne fungus, this killer fungus. So I said, define personality or behavior changes. And it says here, personality or behavior changes in the context of an aspergillus brain infection refer to noticeable shifts of how a person thinks, feels, or acts. This is your personality. This can include increased irritability or aggression, apathy or a lack of interest in usual activities. Apathy is whenever you're just far removed. You know what I mean? Like you have no feelings, you don't care or anything. Unusual anxiety or paranoia. Impulsive or inappropriate actions. Withdrawal from social interaction. Depression-like symptoms. And confused thinking or poor judgment. So you can imagine whenever some of these airborne bacterias and funguses and stuff, especially those toxins that affect the brain, as we've talked about, that's happening right now. The oceans are releasing these neurotoxins that are affecting animals. The animals are acting weird. We talked about the sea lions that stare up at the sky. They look like they're high. They look like they're far removed from reality. And then they start becoming aggressive and biting people and attacking people. Imagine the same exact thing happening in mass, the world across, but to humans. Does that sound like any kind of, movie tropes that you've heard of in the past? Zombies, maybe? Next up, Park Services suspends, and you're going to see that in this KFC commercial. We're going to go over it again, okay? Because I feel it's very revealing, this whole KFC commercial. They're showing you what's going to happen. All your movies are about to just come true. I mean, they already are. Park Services suspends air quality monitoring at all national parks. Well, let's correlate this with what we just went over, with the killer fungus that can be spread through the air, right? And neurotoxins that are being released from harmful algae blooms. And last time we talked about, I was wondering how much they're monitoring the quality of the air to look for these airborne, neurotoxins and things that can affect the minds of human beings and potentially change us rather quickly, causing people to act sporadically, cause people to have seizures and spasms, and affects their perception of the world around them and causes them to become violent and aggressive. Now we have national parks suspending the air quality monitoring at all national parks. It says that the Trump administration has paused but not canceled contracts for the monitoring program, which collects data on harmful air pollutants at 63 national parks. Amazing. Next up, what time is it on the moon? I've seen this article come up a time or two, right? Many different times. I wanted to talk about it because I've been talking about the concept of time and time speeding up lately. And I wanted to clarify it because I've had many comments where people don't seem to understand the concept or my theory as I'm presenting it, so I want to clarify my theory. First and foremost, there is no time on the moon. There's no such thing as on the moon because the moon is a luminary. It's a light, so that you can't land on it. You can't go to the moon. There is no time on the moon. That's like saying, what time is it, on the hour hand of the clock? The clock is what keeps the time. It's what shows you, how you keep track of time or whatever. The moon is the clock, so there's no time on the moon. It's how we keep track of time or time passing or how we perceive time passing, right? And that's all going to change, okay? People don't know what time it is, and our clock is constantly shifting. Our clock, the heavens, the luminaries, are constantly changing. They speed up, they slow down in their movements. There's, one example that comes to my mind is the biblical record of Joshua, right? In the book of Joshua, where he prays to God and God stops the sun in the sky for an extended amount of time. It just stops moving. So you would imagine on the other side of the world, the moon also stopped and they would have had an extended period of nighttime. So the luminaries are not dependable as far as timekeeping devices. Because they're constantly speeding up or slowing down based on where we are within that cycle. Okay. Now, I put forth the theory. I'm just going to clarify real quick, and I might clarify again in the future because people seem to be very confused about this. When I talk about time speeding up, I'm not talking about the actual concept of time. Okay? What I'm referring to is how we human beings measure the perceived concept of time. Okay? So for example, if your clock sped up, okay, time itself wouldn't be speeding up. It's just your clock, how you keep track of time, that's speeding up. So if your clock increased and went twice the speed, you would have twice as many birthdays in the same amount of time. So if you had, if 10 real years passed, you would celebrate 20 birthdays because the clock sped up twice as fast. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm talking about, the luminaries speeding up whenever I'm putting forth the theory that time itself is now speeding up and the days are shortening. Next up, birth rates are close to a historic low. So we've got more of these articles about the birth rates dropping, right? This is going to become bigger and bigger news as it gets more and more serious. Right now, it's not that serious because this is immediately after we've hit the crescendo, okay? The population went way up, or allegedly went way up, it seems. There's people everywhere from my perspective. Oh, hold up. Let me fix my TV here. Okie dokie. Okay, that's my bad. It looks way different whenever the light's not on, doesn't it? Okay, that's fine. Jeez. Anyways, God. See, if I was AI, if I was, a computer program, that wouldn't happen. It would all flow perfectly. You wouldn't have audio problems or visual problems or anything. Anyways, the birth rate's dropping. This is also shown to you in the movies. Okay, the movies disclosed this many different times that the population would go down. As a matter of fact, people would be unable to have children. They're trying to spin it as if this is people's choice. I don't believe so, right? But the birth rates are so low that the president and many other world leaders are offering all these different incentives for people to have babies or to try to have babies. And there's many factors, I think, that play into this, okay? But ultimately, I think it's time, okay? Human beings have reached their time. It says here, as global birth rates continue to decline, the Trump administration has announced that it's considering policies aimed at reversing this trajectory. Let's see. According to a recent report from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, births rose 1% in 2024 to 3.6 million. While births increased slightly from 2023 numbers, they're still close to a historic low. And then here's like a pretty simple to understand chart where you can see the birth rates they go way lower behind me, right? So they're offering these, they're considering offering incentives. They're considering paying people to have babies. Right? Let's see. Next up, practically impossible as the White House pushes women to have more babies. Shrooms and Blooms. Hey, that's a cool name. Welcome to my channel. The White House pushes more women to have more babies. The women who want them can't afford it, they say. That's the excuse, that they can't afford having babies. Okay, I get that, and there's some truth to that. Right? Because you have to have your baby. God forbid you just have your baby at home and you just, have your baby the old fashioned way, how people did for thousands and thousands of years. Now we're programmed to go to the hospital. They always show you this in the movies where some guy's rushing his wife who's pregnant in the back seat to the hospital. I've got to get to the hospital. Oh my God, what if we have the baby at home? Oh, that would just be terrible, right? They want you to have your baby at the hospital so that your product can be documented and you can be given a receipt for your product, because that's what a baby is to them. It's merchandise. But anyways, they're trying to say that women can't afford to have babies. Oh, it costs so much to have I've got to buy more food, and I've got to do this. I've got to buy clothes and stuff. Well, stop having sex. How about that? You know what I mean? Just cut that crap out. If you can't afford to have a baby, I don't know. Let's continue on. Trump says, we just want to be friends, as the Canada Prime Minister torpedoes the 51st state idea. So now Canada, like I said, Canada is going to come up more and more. Canada and the United States, they're playing with the idea, at least in the news, of Canada becoming a state, a part of the United States. The reason why Trump is so interested in Canada becoming United States, the reason he's so interested in Greenland, has everything to do with Hyperborea. It has everything to do with the Garden of Eden and the Fountain of Youth. Some of them know where it is, either intuitively or subconsciously, collectively, or they straight up have been given the information by their superiors or their family members that are higher up on the food chain. And they know where the Garden of Eden is. It's at the North Pole. And they're trying to get closer and closer to the North Pole, to the Arctic. There's this ever-increasing interest in going to the Arctic and claiming the Arctic waters and claiming the Arctic land and the Arctic resources. I mean, they don't do that with Antarctica. There's everyone's saying, oh, we all agree to stay away from Antarctica, but hey, let's fight over the Arctic, because there's going to be a huge perceived fight or a war over the Arctic, okay, which is really a war for Mount Meru. It's really a war for the Garden of Eden and the Fountain of Youth. That's the most valuable resource. That's the most valuable thing in our world, is life. And extended life, okay? Life everlasting and ultimate healing. It's the ultimate healing device. We'll talk more about that in the unicorn movie, that I talk about too. So yeah, Canada, the United States, Greenland, all these places are the closest land masses to the landmass that does exist at the North Pole. And the prophecies indicate that landmass that's underwater is going to rise up out of the ocean, that Atlantis will rise once again, that the Garden of Eden will be rediscovered. And these people, their relatives, the nobles, the elite of the world, their family members, they've been looking for it ever since they were kicked out, or ever since they left. They had to leave because of the cataclysm. But once they left, they became disoriented. They became lost. The stars changed their position. The electromagnetic field reversed. South became north. North became south. People didn't know where they were. The entire geography of the world changed. The land's masses changed physically. Mountains rose up. The whole world changed what it looks like. People became lost. They didn't know where they were. But now, then they started the age of exploration after one of the most recent cataclysms. And that entire purpose of the age of exploration wasn't because they're so interested in just being trailblazers and discovering the new lands, the unknown places. Those places were already inhabited. Okay. And they sent convoys out. They knew that there was native born people in these areas. They were not looking for salt and pepper or cinnamon or any kind of freaking spices. And if you believe that, fine. I used to believe that too. So I understand. All right. That's the story that they give us, but that's not true. Okay. The reality is, now I'm going to do a video about this too. Every single one of these explorers, many of them at least, there's all of these stories that they were looking for a city of gold, or they were looking for the Fountain of Youth, or they were looking for the Garden of Eden itself. All right. And that's the purpose. That's the main purpose. And that's why many times whenever they met these native tribes, they would hear these rumors, which is really them inquiring. There was them asking, have you ever heard of such a place? And then the natives would say, yeah, it's up north. And so they would stop everything. They would pack up, then take their entire convoy, and they would go north. But they didn't go far enough north, ever. They just went a little bit more further north and then asked around and looked for evidence and stuff. And, they settled in the northerly regions. America's coming brain drain. Trump's war on universities could kill U.S. innovation. Listen, I don't even know anything about the war on the U.S. universities or whatever, but getting rid of colleges, getting rid of academics is not going to kill innovation. All right. If anything, it'll probably make it better, in my opinion. All right. But innovation is directly tied to energy. How much energy a person has will dictate how innovative they are, or their ability to think, right? If you imagine your brain capacity or how much you can think on a scale of 1 to 0, like a gas tank, okay? After the apocalypse during the golden age, your tank is full. You're using 100% of your brain. Okay, give or take. But as the energy in our world starts to get pulled inward towards the core or towards the hollow earth section, towards the inner star or towards the center point inside the earth, the energy goes with it. The energy drains up here on the surface, and that leads to, life up here on the surface draining in many different ways. So the energy starts to drain. So does the energy or the amount of our brain or our synapses and our neurons that we can use. It goes lower and lower and lower, which affects our innovation or our ability to be innovative, right? And we have to create these technologies and stuff to think for us, right? To give us ideas and stuff. That's why I do a lot of these creative, fun segments every once in a while, like Masterpiece Mad Libs and stuff. Which, by the way, I just posted all of the recent Masterpiece Mad Libs on my website under the main menu section. So if you want to download any of those creations that we've made together, you can on my website, and I'll keep posting those. But the reason I do that is to stimulate our creative ability. We've lost the ability to be creative. Just look at many of the movies that have come out in the last decade or two. They suck. They're just spin-offs. They're just the same concepts, the same ideas with a different flair. You know what I mean? Let's make the main character a boy instead of a girl, or, you know what I mean? It's not innovative whatsoever. Movies were more innovative the further back in time we go. And that's just one example. But the good news to that is though we're experiencing a brain drain right now, it won't always be the case. Okay. Your ability to think, if you survive the apocalypse, will be restored to you, but much more. Okay. And it says this in the Bible in 1 Corinthians 13. It makes reference to this. All right. Next up, SpaceX gets FAA approval for 25 Starship launches per year. I just want to talk about FAA approval. Who needs approval to go up? You know what I mean? Should I get a license to jump? You know what I mean? Should I get a certificate or some kind of a diploma if I jump too high? Now, can I get a ticket for that or something? You know what I mean? And I like to use extreme examples so that people can make the correlation to less extreme instances. But this whole FAA approval, this is garbage, right? You shouldn't need approval to move in any direction. You should be able to, you do. Let me go back. You don't need approval. Okay? That's the reality. That's the truth. You don't need approval to go up. If you want to go from here to the dome, you go right ahead. You don't even need my permission. Okay? That's called freedom. You have the freedom to move about wherever you want to. Restriction is the season of Satan that we live in right now. Those are the handcuffs. That's the binding. They're trying to keep you restricted, limited, confined. But you don't need FAA approval. You don't need approval from anyone for anything. Now, under the system we live in, they say, well, you do, unless you want us to go to war with you, unless you want us to make your life difficult or whatever, right? However, I found that a difficult life tends to be a more fruitful life. So there's that. Next up. Oh, this is insane. Speaking of the truth in the movies, right? Hold on, let me get my chat pulled up here. Speaking of the truth in the movies, over in China, where's the title to this? Oh, here it is. Let me make this bigger. Check this out. Real life RoboCop, humanoid robot deployed for police in China. And here he is, wearing a little vest, a little bulletproof vest, and a little walkie and everything, right? The PM-01 from company Engine AI was the first humanoid robot police in service. The first humanoid robot policeman. In Shenzhen, China, a humanoid robot was deployed for the first time to patrol the public areas, helping locating missing children. This is how they spin it. They always give you the candy, before they take you into the van. To help locate missing children and assist tourists. Oh yeah, because all the tourists need so much assistance. However, they need police assistance. However, public relations to the robotic patrol have been largely critical. yeah, there's going to be, this is the next philosophical, debate is whether or not these are ethical and what rights they'll have and, all this type of stuff. Hold on, let me get back. Where do you see this dude? Look at him walking there. So that's a real life RoboCop. The movie is becoming a reality. All right. So that's why I love to do the truth in the movies. That's why I love to examine the commercials and all this stuff. Even if it's not purposeful disclosure, it's disclosure nonetheless. There's nothing that can be hidden. There's nothing that can be truly kept secret in a system that's enclosed and resonant, where the energy resonates throughout all of us. Right? Every single thing that is happening, every single thought, every single action is put out and it doesn't leave. It stays. It reverberates within this system, and therefore all the information eventually comes out, through us and through nature. And it's called divination, basically. Now, Mr. BBB, hold up. What's his name? Mr. MBB 333. I like this dude. I like the stuff he covers. Also he has his subscribers send him his own version of basically Omens, right? Which is why I like the channel so much. Many people have asked me to fix up my website so that you guys can contribute to the Omens and share yours. Next week, that'll be available on my Omens tab under my website. Once again, I found a way to make that happen. So I'll give you guys an update whenever that's all fixed up. It should be probably today or tomorrow. But Blue Rain, right? He was talking about people were sending him videos of it raining blue. The blue puddles and just blue stuff. One person told me that somebody in Texas drank the blue rain and started hallucinating for hours, essentially. Right? What is it? What is this blue rain? Where does blue rain come from? Right? Okay. It's a good question. Here, let me show you an example that he's got here. So here's like a little puddle of the blue rain. This is called Mysterious Blue Rain. You can check this out on his channel. And he also talks about the lights flickering. That's also in the KFC commercial too that we're going to check out. But this blue rain, I looked it up. And it says here, blue rain is rare and usually caused by contamination of rainwater by airborne particles or organisms. Known causes include, number 1 on the list, algae and fungus. Damn. And that dude drank it. Algae or fungal spores. Some microscopic spores can have bluish pigments and when suspended in the atmosphere may tint the color of the rain. This is bad news. Poison rain. Toxic rain. I don't recommend you drink it. Okay? That's not a good idea. Don't eat government snow. You know that snow that looks like Dippin' Dots? It falls down in little mini snowballs all over the place. I don't recommend you eat that. The reason it looks like that is because of the particulates in the air, and then it just sticks to them and makes little snowballs. Particulates is a fancy word for smog. I don't know, nasty crap that they spray into the air. You know what I mean? The other things that can cause it is industrial pollution, dust or ash, biological agents. None of this is good. Don't drink the blue rain. I would not do that if I was you. Rain can turn all kinds of colors, but blue, number 1 on the list, is algae and fungus. So think about this. If there's so much algae and fungus that can mess with your mind and act as a neurotoxin, that it's turning the frickin' rain blue, right? I tune into my channel because I'm giving information away on all that all the time. All right, next up. This is also a related article. Okay, so this happened off the coast of Texas and California too, other places as well. Now keep in mind, this happened in California. California recently experienced an influx of this bioluminescent water off of its shores, right? Bioluminescent water is water that you splash it and stuff and it'll glow in the dark. So all these people were going to California to take pictures, to play in the glowing water. And it's algae. It's super toxic. Anyways, also in Texas, this happened. So I believe that his example specifically, this one right here, is from Texas. And here's an article. It says big piles. This is earlier this year. Big piles of smelly algae wash up in Texas just in time for the new year. Beachgoers are opting out of visiting the area to avoid the stench. Here's the pile. The big nasty pile of algae. Just look how much of that is in the water. This is off of the Gulf of Mexico, America, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Right? Tall piles of red algae interact with the waves in Corpus Christi, says the caption on the photo here. This is just how much washed up. Imagine how much is still in the ocean, evaporating, getting into the air, turning the freaking rain blue, right? Making otters and sea lions go nuts and attack people, and orcas attack boats, and all this crazy stuff that's happening in the ocean, and nobody's paying attention to it. All right, last but not least, let's check out this KFC commercial again. I want to point out some stuff that you guys pointed out to me through the comments section. And also a big shout out to the Black Sheep researcher who made the Janus connection with all the 11s that are pointed out in this commercial. So let's check this out. This is extremely interesting, and it's directly related to every single omen that we just covered, especially the neurotoxins being released through the funguses and the algae and stuff like that, right? So we've got this laundromat, and this woman's doing her clothing, right? Now, they're going to pan over. The clock is set up here to 11 o'clock, right? So the two ones, that's the Pillars of Hercules, which is the anode and cathode mountain, the two witnesses, these beams of light, the Pillars of Hercules that shoot up on either side of Hyperborea, and those act as the boundaries to the Garden of Eden, essentially. So people will be able to see these. They come right up out of the ocean, which is why the Pillars of Hercules are shown coming up out of the ocean on, ancient depictions of the Pillars of Hercules. And then it says change too. So that I wanted to point that out. Hold on, rewind that. All right, so it shows you the clock up here, which is 11, but then right here it says change, right? It's a change machine, obviously. But it says change on there. Somebody just stuck that on there because it's showing you the change that's about to happen in our world. Now, the shirt fell down all by itself. She looks over at it. She doesn't think much about it. This whole video, these commercials that they're showing you called Believe in Chicken, they're showing you the depressurization event. They're also showing you omens that are to come and how society is going to change and become quickly psychotic, okay? Way more than they are now. Now, watch her mannerism. See how she kind of like starts twitching? They're playing it off like it's this catchy dance, like she's just dancing and rocking out. She's not. She's having a spasm. There was the dancing plague. There's been many different instances of the dancing plague throughout history, but most notably in Africa, where they had this instance of people dancing themselves to death, basically. They were not dancing. They were convulsing. Okay. Every time you hear about this dancing plague, it's because gases are being released in mass in particular regions of the world. And the people that inhale those gases will be affected by whatever type of gas they are. Some gases, can mess with you neurologically, and they can cause you to go into spasms and stuff like that. That's the dancing plague. There's also the laughing plague, where the gases cause people to hysterically laugh. What's up, Glenn? Good to see you. High five. Now, we go inside of this car that's parked at the gas station. The lights are flickering, as you can see here, right? Somebody else pointed out that there's a chicken back there in the rearview mirror. I totally missed that last time. I was looking at the egg, right? They do that. See that chicken? Right? It's just, it's looks. This is a perspective thing. They mess with perspective all the time. They did this in ancient alchemy works. If you look at those ancient alchemical drawings and stuff, they changed perspective, and only the initiates understood that they changed the perspective on certain images. But anyways, they show you this giant chicken. It looks more like a dinosaur in the background. It looks like it's gigantic walking on the ground. Let's check it out again. You see that right up here? It looks, and it's even like kind of like making the car move along with the chicken walking. It's subconsciously telling you that it's a giant chicken, basically, right? Why is that important? It's important because gigantism is going to return to this world. Okay. All of the plants, animals, people, and everything, they're after the next depressurization event, they're going to grow to gigantic sizes. Oxygen is going to be released, and we'll have a great oxidation event once more in this world. Pressure will be released. So there'll be less pressure on everything, allowing things to grow to gigantic sizes as well. The golden egg is the golden age, right? And it's cracking open, meaning it's getting ready to give birth to a new age, or to the golden age. The lights are flickering. Let's check out where it's coming from. So that's the car right there. And you can see it's kind of like going forward and stopping, going forward and stopping. Either it's driving on its own, okay, which is because it's coming to life. It's becoming energetically charged on its own. So we'll have an influx of energy. The earth will be supercharged, as you can see the name of the gas station right there. And along with that, every single thing that remains that is electrical in nature, especially those things that are machines or robotic, they're going to turn on. They will come to life all on their own. Cars will run all on their own, especially those cars that can just drive themselves, like Teslas and stuff. They'll drive their own, and they're not going to they're going to. If this happens, I don't want to say they're going to, but it stands to reason that if they did, if we lived in a world where there's so much energy entering into our world, into our atmosphere, that it just turned on electrical devices and they operated independently of human commands, as happened during the Carrington event of, over 100 years ago, then it's likely that, they could hurt people. They could injure people. Hey, Orion's Child, thanks for your donation. I super appreciate that. That's very helpful. Thank you. Anyway, so the lights are all flickering, right? This is because we're going through an electromagnetic surge. We go into this local bar or tavern where a fox walks in, right? There's like the Fox News connection and stuff like that. The fox also eats the chickens, the eggs and stuff. There's also an 11 and another 11 over here. These act as the pillars of Hercules once again. Or as the Black Sheep researcher pointed out, the Janus connection, the god of transitions, the god of doorways. The ultimate doorway is at the center of the earth. It is the doorway between the underworld, or the inner earth, the hollow earth, and the surface world where we live. So we have Joaquin and Boaz, the two different pillars within Freemasonry. That's what those are. They're the pillars of Hercules. All right, so we've got 11 over here, 11 over here. It's also just the word 11 is a play on the word elven, which is the Elu, or the elf, or the people who are related to and from the El, which are the ancient mighty ones, or the survivors of the apocalypse. So this fox comes in. Now the fox, is crafty, it's clever, it's a hunter, it chases after the chickens, right? The chickens are the people who are trying to get back to the 88 land, which is the two pillars, the land between the two pillars, okay? This is pretty deep. They're standing on the black and white tiles, the black and white chessboard symbolism, basically, right? So a lot of this is representing the elite. Anyways, he just walks in casually to this place. Nobody seems to notice or care, even though somebody is working there. And it says new news at 11. So there's another 11 once again, right? I'm telling you, this is steeped in esotericism. This is steeped in arcane, hidden information. This is passing along a message. This is in your face, revealing to you. This is complete disclosure in the form of mindless entertainment. Many people are mindlessly entertained by this. They're just like, what? That was weird. Wasn't that weird? God, that's so creepy. Let's get some chicken. Let's go get some KFC tonight. BK, what's up, BK? High five. And then on here, now earlier when the woman was in, you can't hear the audio, but when she was in the laundromat, she was listening to the news, and the news was talking about a person getting married to artificial intelligence, like a robot. And here on the news, once again, it says a man marries his AI partner. So they're telling you what is to come. People are going to start having relationships with computers, with their apps, with robots. They're making humanoid ones, right? So this is shown to you in the movie AI. Right? The whole movie was just your future repackaged and presented back to you in the form of entertainment, when in reality it's disclosure. It's giving you a glimpse of what is to come. And people are going to get married to robots, and there'll be a whole debate about whether or not robots are conscious and what is consciousness and are we technically robots and stuff, right? All right, anyways, so this bartender lady does this weird, convulsing spasm thing. She gets up, and then check out what she does. She pecks at the TV. She slams her face into the TV and breaks it, and it makes the shape of a chicken or a rooster, whatever that's supposed to be. Do you see that? It's not easy to make out, but you can see there's a chicken. There's a tail right here. That's the head right up here, right? So they hid the chicken in there once again. Is this really the best way to sell food? Like people with neurological issues and problems and psychotic people smashing their faces into things. Yeah, I guess so. When you live during the season of Satan, or the little season of, as people call it, then yeah, I suppose all the little satanic people around the world are like, man, I can't wait to get some KFC. You see that cool new commercial? Maybe that works on them. I don't know. It doesn't work on me. It makes me feel off. It makes me feel weird. It's disturbing. You know what I mean? But they're showing you what's to happen. People are going to do this. They harm themselves. And it all comes from what is released into the air. Just like in that movie. What was that movie? The Happening. That's how the movie began, right? That there was something in the air that they thought like plants were releasing. And then the first thing that people started doing was they were harming themselves. People were jumping off of buildings and stuff. Now over here, we cut to the next scene. So one of my subscribers pointed this out. Now this machine is running on its own, right? This little pizza delivery motorcycle, it's on all by itself, right? Like I talked about the atmosphere being electrically charged. But someone else pointed this out, that this arrow is moving all around, right? Much like a compass would if you were at the North Pole. It would just spin around and around and around. You see that? And then this guy is going through his convulsions. So are the people in the background. This is the dancing plague that they're showing to you, where these people do not have any control of their bodily functions. This is also like a Thriller. Remember that movie Thriller? There's zombie people, Michael Jackson. Now this guy stepped on the newspaper article that says WTF, meaning the news article was trying to point this out, that there's something weird happening, and he just, watch, pay attention, check this out. So he just steps on it, like forget the news, forget the disclosure, forget talking about it or whatever, right? Now you have all these Michael Jackson style Thriller people going through their convulsions and stuff. In the background it says trust in herbs, trust in spices, right? Not trust in like God or trust in yourself or trust in peace or love or anything. And they're all doing this weird chicken flapping dance. Oh, there's another chicken and graffiti in the background. I just noticed that. Watch, right back here. You see that? I just showed it real quick. All right, so all these people are going through convulsions, right? This is likely to happen. This is very feasible and very possible based on what we've discussed with the fungus, the killer funguses, the neurotoxins from the algae blooms, harmful algae blooms, the oceans turning green. And I had a couple people tell me like, the oceans are not turning green because I live near the beach and the beach is blue. So just keep in mind, all right, I'm not saying the entire ocean. Even the Bible says only 2/3 of the ocean will turn red, which is red tide. Okay, so there's always anomalies and exceptions. Just because you don't see it where you live doesn't mean where you live represents the entire rest of the world. But that's what we're examining. Now, all the people are still convulsing. What does that say? The license plate says something. Hold up. This is how I watch movies and stuff too. Tag cluck. Oh, you can't see it. I'm in the way. Hold on. Let me show you this. Maybe you guys can figure this out. All right. You see the license plate down there? Right here? It says like TAG and then maybe I or 1 or lowercase l or TA6. But it looks like a G. And then CLK. Like cluck maybe? I don't know. Tell me what you think about that. Let me jump back in here. Let's break down the rest of this. Now, there's all these pillar symbolism too, right? You notice they're underneath the freeway or under the bridge, like the Red Hot Chili Pepper song. And there's all these pillars. right? So there's a lot of pillar symbolism acting as more 11s, like these, what are these, like pipe thingies in the background, acting as more 11s. Hold up, let me check that out one more time. Yes. So there, these things in the background, these little smokestacks, they're acting as more like beam symbolism, 11s. The cars are doing that same jerky motion. So either the people inside of the cars are also convulsing, or the cars are just fluctuating energetically and they're turning on and off or trying to drive themselves. All right, so now all these people are meeting up somewhere. They're all being called to the same place, which is another Hyperborean Garden of Eden reference. Okay, there's the Earth will put out a signal to go to the North Pole. Everybody will feel it. All right, subconsciously or not. This is a feeling I have. This is a thought. This is what I'm feeling. Okay, but I'm telling you that there's going to be two sides to that story. There's the 11. Okay, two sides to the story. One is that the evil people will try to get there first. Because they get there first, all the evil people, and I'm generalizing, okay, but they'll all be destroyed. They're all being gathered together so that they can easily be wiped out. This is according to biblical prophecy, all right? It's called Surrounding the Camp of the Saints. They go to the North Pole, they go to Hyperborea. The Camp of the Saints is the Garden of Eden, I believe. And they're all wiped out from this heavenly cosmic fire that comes down from above. And then we follow. And then the rest of us, the good people of the world, they wait for the sign because they're obedient and they understand how to follow these signs. And then they go and they walk, right past all of the destruction and death and all the dead bad guys, basically. So these people are all being called like zombies, twitching and stuff. They're all going to some place. There's more pillar symbolism right there behind me. In this old world looking courthouse building. And then they all surround the chicken. Hold up. They only show you that real quick. So they surround this central area, right? It's a circular stone area. This represents Atlantis. This represents the Garden of Eden, Hyperborea, the central circular land that's depicted on the medieval maps in antiquity, okay, which is at the North Pole. The chicken at the middle. Mad Pax. Hey, what's up, Mad Pax? Good to see you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate your comment. All right, so now watch what happens to the land that the chicken is standing on. It rises. Watch this. Now you'll see it in just a second. I'll talk about that guy in a second too. So the actual land is going to move up. You see it? Watch. It's moving up. You see it getting higher and higher until finally it's way up above their heads and the chicken is way up there. Did you see that? Hold on. I want to show you this because this is important. This is the North Pole. This is land that is rising up out of the earth, oh, check this out. I didn't even see this on the building, but it says the Believer's Bastion. That's interesting too. It says that right there, right above the pillars. The Believer's Bastion. Wow. That was the kid's name in the Neverending Story. But anyways, this all represents the people, the evil people of the world who are all possessed like zombies and stuff, right? They all go to the North Pole. They surround the Camp of the Saints, which is represented by this right here. And let me go back and point out a couple of other things that I pointed out last time too. Okay, so... oh, this part, right? So this girl easily does a push-up, the difficult way with your hands forward, right? Easily. The hands super together, not even far apart to make it easier on herself. Just lifts herself up like it's nothing. This guy walking past her just casually, barely, gently touches her, and she just slides off to the side. This is weightlessness. This is what happens. It's increased buoyancy. In the world, in the atmosphere, the buoyancy starts to increase in our atmosphere as the atmosphere itself depressurizes, right? And so things weigh less. And immediately after this, they show you the guy that drops stuff. He drops these packages and they just kind of float down, right? That's the depressurization in the atmosphere. All right. Those are the only things I wanted to point out in this particular one. And then it says, believe in chicken, right? And this chicken's sort of like hypnotizing them. This is the Pied Piper. Let's see. Where's the other one? I want to see the other believe in chicken. Let's check out that one too. Okay, so this next one right here. So this one's very interesting too. It starts in this is the haunted forest or whatever. So let me explain something. In my research on Hyperborea and the Garden of Eden, on the outskirts, well, okay, how do I explain this? Bear with me if you don't really follow my work or my channel, okay? Just take it with a grain of salt, and I've got lots of information on my channel and my books and stuff too, okay? But I have found that there are layers to Hyperborea. There's layers to the Garden of Eden. Around the very outside of the entire garden, on the outskirts, okay, outside of the boundaries of the Garden of Eden, is a desert every other cycle, and every other cycle after that is an ocean. We call it the Arctic Ocean. It's also known as the Septentrion. It is comprised, it's just outside of 7 plasma volcanoes, okay, huge peaks that are created that rise up out of the ground. This is also mentioned in the book of Revelation when it talks about the beast rising up out of the ocean. And it says that these horns of the beast, these heads, are mountains. It straight up tells you that. Okay, so if we work our way in from the outskirts of the Garden of Eden, Eden produces a lot of gigantic vegetation, which produces a massive amount of pollen, but the zephyr, or the inner earth wind, blows that pollen outward. The pollen mixes with all of the fog and the mist that is created, which surrounds the Garden of Eden. So outside of Eden, it is hidden by a fog. It is hidden by a cloud. The pollen interacts with the cloud, it interacts with the fog, and it creates manna. Okay, it creates a sticky honey-like substance that falls to the ground and it dries out. You know, the ancient Israelite story of them picking it up, drying it out, and eating these wafers to survive while they're trying to look for the Holy Land. That's what's happening. Okay, now we make our way in. Next, we hit the walls of Eden, which is the Septentrion themselves. Star Angel, hey, thank you for your donation and your thumbs up. That was kind. All right, so next we hit the walls of Eden. This is the beginning of the labyrinth. Okay, the walls of Eden are the cliffs of insanity. They're sheer cliffs that go straight up. They're pulled up electromagnetically. They're self-created every other cycle, and they rise up just like you saw the chicken rising up from its own little walls. Okay, and there's 7 plasma volcanoes that cause that. Okay, so these huge walls rise up, and they go for miles. Okay. And because they're gigantic walls and there's small crevices in between them and cracks and stuff, it acts as a labyrinth in order to get into the central area, or the Garden of Eden itself. When you first get into it, you're going to have a little residue fog in the exterior. Okay, so there's an area of the labyrinth that will be foggy. Immediately after that, when you do have growth and stuff and you're beyond the rocks, then you'll have a foggy forest, which is this magical forest, lush, untouched by man, untouched by, humans and humankind, just completely overgrown, tropical-like almost, just real matted everywhere, vines and stuff growing all over the place, gigantic trees all over, and then of course a fog too. This is shown to you in the movies all the time, especially in horror movies and stuff. It's always a foggy forest or whatever, right? It's a magical forest. Now, as you go in even further, then everything will start calming down. You enter into the valley portion of the Garden of Eden in Hyperborea, and it becomes more fertile. The fog disappears and goes away, and that's more the traditional, Garden of Eden. That's where everybody lives, and that's where you have different regions and towns and villages and stuff like that. And those villages, those towns, are the real places that we call Greece, Egypt, Ethiopia, all these ancient place names that are out of place now because those people from those places, they left and they renamed the new land after the original places where they came from. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry if you can hear my breathing too. Somebody pointed that out, like my microphone's turned up too loud. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I hope it doesn't bother you too much. Hopefully you can just pay attention to what I'm trying to share with you. Now let's go back to the commercial. Now you're going to see the 2 pillar symbolism in the trees quite often. Now I show you the chicken, right? So he's in this area. He's looking for the chicken, and a rooster is a chicken. It's the same thing. Okay. Now this jacket falls down, this life vest, life preserver, falls down from the heavens and lands on this girl. The girl was the chicken. So this is pretty interesting. But what I wanted to point out was the 11s that are on the trees that's coming up here. Oh, there they are right there. So we've got two different trees. Let me jump out of the way and I'll show you. All right, so we've got one tree over here on the right, and you can see it's dark, but there's an 11 carved into the tree right here. And then over here, you can see on this tree, there's an 11 carved into this one. It's not easy to see, all right, but there's a 1 here and a 1 here. Over here, there's a 1 here and a 1 here. So the two 11s, once again, are portrayed. The Pillars of Hercules, the entrance into Hyperborea and the Garden of Eden. If you want more details on Hyperborea, I did write a book. My second book is all about Hyperborea itself. It's called Return to Hyperborea, and it goes into detail about the things that I'm sharing with you now. And that's available for purchase on my website. All right, so all these people, they gather together. These two sort of represent like Adam and Eve. It's basically the anode and the cathode pillars, which are the Pillars of Hercules. Boy, girl, positive, negative, etc. And these people gather around them, just like they gathered around the chicken. They worship them, and then they become elevated, right? These are the two witnesses that people see before the return of Jesus, before the return of the light of the world, right? These two pillars will rise up out of the ocean. They're pillars of light. They're mountains, okay? But they're out of the mountains come actual heavenly pillars of light, cosmic terrestrial pillars of light that shoot up from the ionized gases that are being released from inside of the earth. All right, so they're wandering through the Garden of Eden, and then the people are worshiping the golden egg or the golden age, right? It keeps falling down. The music is insane. They have like this beat. They're all kind of droned out to this beat. They're being called, right? This is all, that looks very culty. And like I said, there's oh God, there's so much to point out. So this guy's running, and because there's weightlessness, because things weigh less, right? If you run like this and you jump, you'll jump much further, right? Because of all the pressure we have in this world right now, people can't jump that far, right? Not even Olympic people. But if you remove all the pressure, right, and you lower the density of objects and you remove the pressure and stuff, then you will increase the buoyancy. And therefore, you see this person trip and fall, watch, but they go flying, right? They don't just fall down on their face like they would in the world today. That's because there's less pressure in this particular region, which increases the buoyancy. The egg cuts through all these trees. The trees almost look like they're made out of rock right here, actually. I don't know. I don't know. It could have something to do with the petrification of the trees. I'm not sure. But anyways, I'm going to skip forward. So this kid comes up to this lake of gravy. It's KFC gravy. And he looks at it. Now, somebody else pointed out to me that there's a chicken bone or a chicken leg up here, like a drumstick, in the sky. Let me see if I see anything else. Now, pay attention to when they show you a valley that looks like this in the movies or on television or in commercials or anything. Remember, I said they mess with your perspective. Most people don't think that valley, they don't imagine what it looks like when they look 360 degrees around. If this is the Garden of Eden, if that's what it represents, which it does, then this valley of high, lofty mountains stretches all the way around them. This is the circular land at the middle that they're portraying to you. And then they have this lake of gravy over here with all the steam rising up from it. The people are scooping up the gravy almost like it has life-giving properties, right? They're scooping it up with ladles and putting it into these, I don't know, jars or whatever those are. And then the girl picks the guy up like he's weightless, like he doesn't weigh anything. And he's looking at her like amazed. She's handling him like he's lightweight, right? Unlearn the system. Hey, what's up, man? Unlearn the system says the age of revelations are here. 2025 has been a cracker and the truth is being revealed. Keep on being you, Jay, and keep breathing. It's kind of needed. Thank you. Oh, somebody's name is Manticore. I like that. Dude, I could talk about the Manticores. Gravity is an emergent property of electromagnetic fields. Okay, sweet. All right, let's continue on. So she dunks this dude into the gravy, pushes him down like he's being baptized or born again, right? Pushes him down into the river of gravy. You can see the air coming up, right? Which is like he's drowning. This is almost like a murder scene. You know what I mean? And then when he comes up, he's fried chicken, dripping with gravy. And she like presents him to all of the people, clearly who want to eat, and they're excited to eat the human that is now a piece of chicken. And that's welcome to the season of Satan, where this is what your commercials look like. This is how they sell tasty food to you, by just straight up telling you it could be not what you think it is. You know what I mean? But aside from that, there was all kinds of other things in there. I believe that we live in an age of disclosure, in a time of disclosure. If you have any questions, okay, I try really hard. It's been so difficult for me as my channel gets more popular and stuff. You know, I get more negative comments and stuff, and it's not easy for me, for my soul, to deal with the negativity. All right, I'm just being honest with you. It's always been a struggle for me. I appreciate you guys, and I thank you guys so much, especially my mods and all the people who have helped to, you know, keep the house clean or whatever. But if I try to answer people's questions as best as I can, and I know people, I get really deep. I like to get straight to the deep stuff. I also try really hard to build bridges, from what I believe people have some kind of understanding to some concept that is fantastic in how it seems and how it's presented. I present a lot of fantastic things. I present a lot of theories and ideas and wonders and speculations and connections that I make personally based on my path that I've walked. And a lot of people have asked me many, many different questions, you know, a whole spectrum of different questions. And it makes me sad that I can't take the time or devote the time to so many people and just answer every single person's question individually. But don't stop asking, please. Keep asking questions, you know, like genuine ones, not sarcastic, you know, patronizing rhetorical questions like to troll me or others. But genuine research, genuine, you know, questions about what these things mean. I've been studying these concepts for years, for a long time. And, you know, sometimes it could be overwhelming for me, just revelations that I have and the things that happen to me when I'm researching and stuff like that. So sometimes some things can be difficult to explain. But anyways, I do try to answer people's questions. So ask them. If you don't understand the chicken and why the chicken is important symbolically and what it has to do with, you know, the Garden of Eden, Hyperborea, the survivors from the land, what's this all about? What plasma volcanoes are, terrestrial ionized gases, beams of light, the pillars of Hercules, the apex dome, the firmament itself, its composition, the fractalverse. You know, I've had to come up with my own terms for some of these things because they're concepts that I've not heard many other people discuss or talk about. You know, for me, they're new. They're new ideas that have birthed from older ones, or you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I created any of these ideas. I actually say the opposite all the time. This is ancient knowledge. It's just that it's forgotten. It's lost to us today. We live during the season of Satan, or a lack of energy on the surface world where we live. But the energy is being returned to us, and it's amplifying the spirits of some people. Actually, I would say everybody. The evil people they're being amplified. So evil is increasing. Evil is the majority in the world today. I'm just calling it evil, okay? It's the majority. So you're going to notice that more than all of the examples of the good people and their souls and their thoughts and their theories and their ideas and their feelings and their intuition and stuff that's also on the rise. So that's today's Omens episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Please enjoy these credits as well. I remixed the outro. Some people told me they don't like it, which made me sad. But I spent a lot of time remixing this thing. But many people totally dig it. It's kind of has like a Star Wars cantina, steampunk, retro 1930s, vibe to it. And I really like it. So please rock out, enjoy the song, and show your appreciation to all the people that support my life, my work, me and my kids and stuff, so that this is what I can do for a living. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
But something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier on me if I turn away to flee. But there's something holding on, the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Find so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake I'll try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. But there's something holding on in the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to